This video is brought to you by Harold Sack, who gave me a massive 1 year's worth of subscriptions on Patreon. Urza Chief Artificer versus Brimaz, Runo Stromkirk, and Rafik of the Many. And this is my first time realising that this new Brimaz is released on Magic Online, so I'm going to have to check out which of these new commanders might actually be available now. That is an awful hand, and that's not much better in all honesty, so yeah, there's next to nothing we can do with that one, so we're going down a card into another one lander. Seems to be becoming a commonplace occurrence with Magic Online. Okay, that's better with a turn 1 Esper Sentinel. We will keep. Just have to keep our fingers crossed. We're last in the turn order with an Esper Sentinel as well, so we miss on some potential spells being cast in the first turn. No turn 1 plays, thankfully, so didn't miss out on anything from the Esper Sentinel. Draw into another big spell in Meteor Golem, so that might be ominous for the way this game's going to go. Soul Ring being played into the Esper Sentinel, so I wanted to get their tap land down first, and draw us into, you'll never guess, a Blightsteel Colossus. Didn't want to pay the tax so that he could get down a 3-mana spell here. The 3-mana spell being a Bastion Protector, ready for, no doubt, the commander next turn. They do get a scry off the Path of Ancestry as well, so maybe a human tribal deck. And we see a Maya in Misery, seeing a lot of Edict effects during this play session. That did draw us into a Skull Clamp, which is pretty useless in our hand at the moment, so drew 2 cards off the Esper Sentinel, which isn't bad, and got removal out of the hand, but yeah, we're really in a dire situation still here. And we see more fast mana from our opponents, a Mana Crypt over here now. Then getting down Brimaz. If nothing else, we'll get to see what Brimaz can do, hopefully. I think I did build it, but I can't remember how I built it now, what I actually did in that deck. It was quite a while ago at this point. Yeah, we're still on just throwing down lands and passing. We do have our black mana with a Vault of Whispers now, though. It is quite a delicate land, unfortunately. As we thought, Rafik of the Many coming into play without Indestructible and a +2 buff, thankfully. So we wouldn't have drawn, since the Edict effect, we wouldn't have drawn any more cards off the Esper Sentinel at least. And another creature in Sinister Starfish, Essence of Orthodoxy for the Brimaz player, so we have 2 Incubator tokens in play, one of which is a 5/5, another is a 2/2, once they're turned into creatures of course. And not swinging in with the Brimaz, surprisingly, so surely they're not looking at blocking the Rafik with that. Alright, another land for us, continues to fix our mana. So even next turn we don't have a play by the looks of it. Yeah, I'm not going to throw the Skull Clamp away. I'm thinking if we're so desperate for mana within the next few turns, we might not have chance to play the Skull Clamp. But I don't want it sat there doing nothing. It's just going to be a lightning rod for removal. Stoneforge Mystic from the BAMP player will likely be able to play and equip the equipment straight away. Might go for Hammer of Nazan here with 4 mana, and that can cheat other equip costs as well. So that'd be a nice curve here. Instead, our opponent's gone for a Conqueror's Flail. That's a really good one as well. Very underplayed card actually, Conqueror's Flail. Don't see it anywhere near as much as you should. Didn't equip it, curiously, and we do have mana held up here, so we could still remove the Rafik. Deciding not to... Okay, I don't know what that's about. Could have dealt a nice chunk of commander damage there. That would have been a 4/4 and then a 5/5 with the Conqueror's Flail, so 10 commander damage they just missed out on. A Dimir Locket for the Dimir player. Yawgmoth's Vile Offering is being activated now, or being cast. Going to reanimate the Esper Sentinel and get rid of the Rafik. So holding up some protection for Rafik would... Yeah, Heroic Intervention, that explains not equipping the Conqueror's Flail. So well played by our opponent. They do still get the Esper Sentinel there though. Still no attacks, I mean we're not taking damage so it's fine with me. Alright, Fellwar Stone finally getting into some ramp, and we'll be able to add our Esper colours with that. Esper Sentinel is going to be paid for here, no reason not to. So what we could do here is go for, at the end of our next turn cycle, flash in the Research Thief and then equip the Skull Clamp. So yeah, I don't think there's any benefit of getting down the Skull Clamp now, because it's still going to be in play for quite a while without doing anything. Yeah, saving that 1 mana doesn't really help. We're continuing to threaten removal and counter magic that we don't have in hand. Another exalted card in the form of Sovereigns of Lost Alara, so not a human tribal deck by the looks of it. But they are going for auras in this deck seemingly. Maybe a mixture of, it must be auras and equipment if they're running Stoneforge. So I imagine maybe the auras are just totem armors, a means of protecting the Rafik. They seem to be very eager to keep Rafik in play for obvious reasons. So they'll get 2 exalted triggers and double strike here. Putting an Eldrazi conscription is +10/+10. Don't get the Annihilator trigger, but that is going in towards Brimaz, so we're being left alone. That player scoops before taking the damage. Yeah, it's a shame. I was looking for some good Brimaz play there. I was looking hopeful. And then this player scoops as well. Excellent. Well, it gets the game along quickly because we're not doing anything either. Right, so Tezzeret, Master of the Bridge. We cannot... Yeah, we can't do anything with that. There's no removal on it or anything. So, thanks to our dear opponents, we're just going down next turn. We can play the Research Thief in response to attacks, but we do have to sacrifice a couple of permanents. So, let's just see what else our opponent can do during the next turn. We'll just let him through and let him get us, I think. So now the Conqueror's Flail going on to the Enchantment Enabler. So let's go for Research Thief in response to that. And with the Annihilator trigger, we'll sacrifice our 2 mana artifacts, because I'll try and draw a card with the Research Thief. Because weirdly, this doesn't have flying. They're Cloud Spirits and they don't have flying somehow. So we can get through. An interesting thing is that we can play an Equipped Skullclamp next turn. And once Rafik swings in, it will allow us to use this as a sack outlet. Sacrifice this and draw 2 cards. Could put some removal on the Rafik. This can tap down, can't it? Yeah, tap 2 non-land permanents, so... Yeah, I mean, they're just... I was going to say their sole purpose is to get Rafik through, which is obvious in a Rafik deck, but... I think they ticked up there, so targeted the Sovereign, and they're swinging in with Rafik, obviously, so Annihilator 2 and more Exalted stuff. Might be able to just get protection from blue here, thanks to the Sovereigns of Lost Alara. Alright, it is Trample, so yeah, that probably still does it. Yeah, it's a 17/17 now, so what's that? 34 damage minus 3 is well and truly enough commander damage. So there we are. Well, that was a non-game by all accounts, but good for the Rafik fans, and glad that we saw Brimaz hitting Magic Online as well, so I think I'm off to build that deck soon, but as for this video, we'll try another Urza game. Urza versus Ramos, Rielle, and Braids. And you'll never guess, we have a 1-lander. Okay, a Felwar Stone. The only colour we'll have access to is blue for a bit. Felwar Stone gives us all the colours with Ramos, potentially. Got black from Braids, so we're relying on Ramos for white, really. Fast mana on turn 1 from the Ramos player into a Soul Ring and a Mana Confluence, so that fixes our colours for the Felwar Stone at least. Oh my god, and a Vamp Tutor. So our opponent's going that fast, we can't even rely on the mana drain really. Alright, we draw into a Dovin's Veto, which we will be able to cast thanks to the Felwar Stone, so get this into play as soon as possible and we'll be able to hopefully control the game a little bit to buy us some time. Pretty much our only means of playing the game at this point. Alright, and this player is the host of this game, and he did say that he wanted a casual game, and it is Braids Shadowborn Apostles, which will be interesting. Decent enabler for Rielle in Library of Leng. Also noteworthy, Cephalid Colosseum is in play now as well. They took 1 damage to get the library out when they could have used this mana, so not sure what the aim is there. Nice combination of lands in Mana Confluence and the Reflecting Pool now. And there we see a turn 2 Wurmcoil Engine, which is unfortunate because we would have had a mana drain held up for that. We get a combo piece in the Thopter Foundry, but nowhere near doing anything with that. As much as I'd like to get down the Urza here, I think that we're going to have to hold up mana for countering the Ramos, to be honest. And that should generate us a lot of mana off the mana drain so that we can do some stuff next turn. Yeah, we're just holding up counter magic. A Lonely Sandbar being discarded by the Izzet player, so would have taken the damage regardless. And then we see a Shadowborn Apostle followed by a Dark Supplicant. Thought Vessel for Rielle, followed by a Runechanter's Pike, not one that you see very often. And Vesuva entering play for the 5-colour player now. I didn't even realise this was a May ability, to be honest. Vesuva entered the battlefield as a copy of any land on the battlefield, and they've said no to it, clearly, so that's just a useless land until someone drops an Urborg or a Yavimaya or something. Wormcoil Engine copied with the copy artifact. I was hoping that we would be able to copy or counter something big here. Wormcoil Engine goes down the middle at Rielle. Yeah, I was pretty sure our opponent was going to go for the Ramos there, so could have gone for the Urza apparently, which is a waste of a turn. Didn't counter the copy artifact here because I'm fully awaiting a board wipe. Yeah, we draw into Master Thopterist, so yeah, still holding up the mana drain is fine, I think. It's one of our only means into mana at this point. Zathrid Necromancer, that's an awesome card. And then sacrificing 3 clerics, including the Dark Supplicant with its own ability. And that will make some zombie tokens to the Zathrid Necromancer. But it also gets Scion of Darkness into play. When it deals combat damage to a player, put a creature from that player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. There are actually no creatures in the graveyard at this point, so pretty useless creature at the moment. A Decanter of Endless Water now. Following that up with a Soaring Sea Cliff, giving a creature flying until the end of the turn. Obviously they don't have their Rielle in play, so just making a tap land. May well be that the Rielle player plays a wheel of some kind at some point. It's a pretty safe bet, so yeah, we're not done yet, but it's looking pretty likely. There's a Boseiju from the 5-colour player, followed by a Memnarch. Well, I'm glad I held up the mana drain again, because it felt bad getting the turn taken away from me by not playing Urza and holding up mana drain, but definitely worth losing a Memnarch, having our opponent lose a Memnarch. So now time to see if we eat 12 damage from the engines. Nope, going in towards the black player, so they could trade out one of their Wormcoils for the Scion. Looks like the damage is just being taken though. So up to 50 life here and down to 28 for the mono black player. And then during our main phase, alright, Sword of the Animist could get us back into the game. So we'll drop ourselves a mere Battle Sphere with that 7 mana. And that will get us some tokens into play. Hopefully we'll have some remaining so that we can throw a sword onto one of them. And then it is what we should have done on turn 2 apparently. Play the Urza. That comes down with a Construct, which is a 7/7, so just like that. We've managed to make a board here, which is why I held up the mana drain, knowing that the game was going to be reliant on that. And I'm not thinking we're going to see a board wipe, maybe from the Izzet player. I'm just going to have to hope not. We'll go for mere tokens being tapped for blue mana, and throw down the Master Thopterist. Is that intelligent here? We can draw a card thanks to Sai's ability and Urza's ability, sacrifice an artifact in response to a board wipe. So Sai does replace itself, and we can get down the sword next turn. Yeah, let's just try our best to catch up here. So now the 6/6 swings back in at the 5-colour player, gonna get control of a Memnarch. Doesn't have the blue mana to activate it, thankfully. But getting it out of his graveyard's probably going to be a good idea, just in case he can reanimate it and make use of Memnarch. And now we see Braids Arisen Nightmare, so we'll be able to sacrifice creature or artifact, so not too worried about that. And now we see a Bone Splinters, so yeah, Urza will put the fear of God in people. Yeah, I think we just have to let that go, to be honest. Glad I got down the Sai now, to be honest, because that's a lot less mana that we're generating next turn. Sacrificing a zombie token, so we will get rid of a Mir. And I think they did draw a card there because the Wormcoil engines are still in play. Obviously can't activate the Master Thopterist now in response to a board wipe, so yeah, it's just a case of what the Izzet player does here, I think. Alright, and the middle player scoops. Don't think I've had a single game today without an early scoop. So we go over here. And that's an easy way to block people on Magic Online. For any of you who play Magic Online, you can do it within the chat so that you don't have to dig into the settings. Baleful Strix from Ramos. And there we see a Cabal Coffers, so 2 useless lands at the moment. They'll definitely want to be seeing an Urborg, which they clearly have in the deck. Arcbound Ravager is a sack outlet for the artifacts, which is always one to worry about. Not attacking him with the Wormcoil, which I'm grateful for. Yeah, probably could have gone in over here, because getting their Memnarch back wouldn't be a bad thing, I wouldn't have thought. A Bident of Thassa. I mean, it just has to be the Sword of the Animist here. Put that on the Construct token, which will become a 9/9. Obviously got a Thopter token from the Sai there as well. And yeah, we're just desperately trying to actually do something this game. Mana Drain really kept us in it there. Swinging to the left with the 9/9. Our opponent chump blocks with a zombie token. Oversold Cemetery. You need 4 or more creatures. And they've only got 3. And then we see a Death Greeter. Followed by another Shadowborn Apostle, so they can sacrifice that to the Braids most likely. It'll be replaced by a zombie token. And the 6/6 swings in towards us. All we do is block with 7 toughness there. Could obviously gang up on that thing and try and get rid of it, but don't want to give them back the Urza. So Braids going to sacrifice something here, you would expect, and it is a Shadowborn Apostles. So I'd be sacrificing that Baleful Strix if I was my opponent. We get rid of another Mir token. Don't feel as bad doing that when the Thopter is in play now. A little bit of evasion for us. The Death Greeter they can gain life with, thanks to the creatures being sacrificed. They did get rid of the Flyer over there, which could be relevant with our Thopters. A Shardless Agent from the 3-colour player will Cascade, of course, and cascades them into a Survival of the Fittest. No cards in hand, thankfully, so Survival of the Fittest not as threatening as it would be. Alright, seeing the Wormcoil Engine come into the red zone now. So trying to take tokens away from us, I think. We'll just block 1 of them and take 6, I think. I'm hoping we'll be able to, over the course of the next few turns, make more Thopter tokens with Sai. But we're not going to make one next turn because I think I'm going for the Commander. Okay, still no land. That is a Whir of Invention. Can we do anything with that? We don't have triple blue actually, do we? Can we pay for the blue with this? Yeah, it just pays for generic, so we don't even have the triple blue to pay for that. So, go through to the main phase. And we go in for our 3 mana Urza. And it's a 7/7 construct. We go in... yeah, to the right is fine. They'll have to double block if they don't want to take the 7. Our opponent's trying to throw away the Shardless Agent here. Yeah, that could be telling that he doesn't mind losing that. When it comes into play under the Reanimator's turn, it won't get the Cascade trigger, which is noteworthy. Obviously not wanting to lose the Artbound Ravager there. They could have sacrificed a Wormcoil in order to get a couple of tokens and Death Touch this out of the way. Anyway, at the end of the turn we get another Construct from the Urza, so a 7/7 Menace. Oversold Cemetery triggers at the end of, or at the beginning of this player's turn, and randomly grabs a Shadowborn Apostle, playing the Shadowborn Apostle. And now the 6/6 goes in at the 5-colour player, who has a Baleful Strix to reanimate. So just throwing away, yeah, eager to throw away the Shardless Agent, seemingly. That does have Trample, so maybe he hasn't seen the Trample, but might be wanting to do something with that from the bin. Not sure, maybe just blocking a little bit of damage, but at 43 I wouldn't have thought it'd matter. Probably better to just keep a body in play if you're not going to do anything tricksy. So the Shardless Agent is in the bin once the Scion of Darkness goes on the stack, so they could reanimate that instead of the Strix. Probably best going after, yeah, they do go after the bird instead because it cantrips. Playing another Shadowborn Apostle there, so 2 in play, and then a Hecatomb. When it enters the battlefield, sacrifice it unless you sack 4 creatures. Tap and untap Swamp you control to deal 1 damage to any target. Alright, so they can deal 5 damage to a player maybe, or something like that. We need to keep that thing in mind. Using it as a big sack outlet here. So they'll get a couple more zombies. Pretty creative Braids deck our opponents come up with. Which is why I prefer these casual games if players actually adhere to the casual caveat of the game. Because you do see more creative stuff from your opponents. Sacrificing a zombie token. I think I want to, if the Wormcoils are going to start swinging in at us, I think I'd rather keep as many tokens in place, so I'm actually going to give my opponent a card here. Alright, and this player didn't sacrifice anything either, so went up 2 cards. Wanting to keep as many creatures in play as possible because they're artifacts, and it makes the Master of the Bridge much better. Well, I'm not sure what I'm doing next turn. Ramos Dragon Engine for the 5-colour player finally coming in. Does not have haste, but these Wormcoils are going to continue swinging at us apparently. So instead of being held hostage by these things, that is a copy artifact, so we're alright putting that in the bin, I think. And then, do we just take another 6 damage? Yeah, I think that's alright. We're starting to teeter now though, so gonna have to be careful with these worm coils. Getting into a blue land next turn will be good so that we can hold up the Whir of Invention. Not drawing into a land, of course. It's an Anointed Procession though, which isn't the worst. So maybe go for that and hold up the Dovin's Veto. Yeah, suppose that's alright here. Take 2 damage to the Ancient Tomb. And drop that thing. We'll get 2 Construct tokens at the end with Urza. And if we can stick the Sai for any length of time and start playing artifacts into it, then we'll get double Thopters as well. So let's get our 3rd blue mana with the Construct token. The Sword of the Animist, doing what Sword of the Animist does best here. Not quite threatening enough to remove, but when you get it into play and leave it in play for a long time, it can really pull you out of a sticky situation, which is what's happening here. So Urza managing to trigger at the end of the turn, thankfully not seeing any spot removal. 0 cards in this player's hand, but there will be 4 in Brai's hand, or Braids' hand, at the beginning of the turn. Oversold Cemetery, grabbing an Apostle at the beginning of the turn. And I'm thinking Whir of Invention just for a Skull Clamp might be good. Skull Clamp will be making a Thopter as soon as it comes in, so that gives it something to equip. Do we just go for the Thopter Foundry combo though? We actually don't have a sack outlet or our Urza in play now, so that'll be a more difficult combo to get off. The Shadowborn Apostle into play. And then 1 damage to any target is going to go after a Mere token. That's from the Swamp being tapped. And then the Thopter in the air as well, so we don't have a blocker for the Ramos anymore. Hopefully we'll be able to counter whatever Ramos goes for. I mean, 0 cards in hand, so it'd have to be one hell of a top deck. That's debuffing our constructs as well. They're down to 6/6s. Now Culling the Weak sacrifices a Shadowborn Apostle to make some mana. And that 4 mana being used for Demon of Catastrophes. Yeah, you sacrifice a creature for it. It's a 6/6 flyer with trample. So basically just using the Shadowborn Apostles as utility in this deck as opposed to actually activating their ability. Playing another Apostle, going down to 1 in hand. So we're getting a lot of our artifacts dealt with, unfortunately. Braids gets rid of a Shadowborn Apostle, making another zombie token and gaining a life. Yeah, I need the construct tokens to be able to trade with the worm coil if it continues to swing in at us, so yeah, I think we're just saying no again. We're getting down there in life, unfortunately. The Artbound Ravager being sacrificed to the Braids, and that puts a plus counter on the worm coil engine, which means even if we double block with the construct now, we'll lose both of them. It's probably going to be worth doing though. Could throw the Mere Battlesphere and a construct away. Our opponent's drawn into a card and is tapping down blue mana. And I say Jace the Mind Sculptor. Yeah, well, we can't get through to it. I'm just going to have to counter that, I think. I don't think this player's going to put much stock into trying to get rid of a Jace. And I don't want it. It's going to bounce some of our stuff. I can see it coming from a million miles away. And we are far behind enough as it is here. So now the 7/7 continuing to swing in our direction. And we get the 5/5 as well, very kindly. And a 3/3 Death Toucher. So we go Battlesphere and Construct onto the Worm Coil. And then we're taking 8. No, I think I'll get rid of the Phyrexian Worm as well. Really don't like losing this many creatures, but there's little to nothing we can do about it here whilst we're being ganged up on. Don't think Ramos is appreciating that Braids is running away with the game here. Be interesting to see what he can do about Braids. So the Worm Coil makes some more tokens. There'll be 2 Lifelinkers and 1 Death Toucher. Okay, there's a Sol Ring, so... Oh wow, really, Ramos? Jeez. Well, there's another one. So we are 2 for 3 in this game. Right, so now what do? We can make Thopter tokens to chump block with. We'll get a couple more constructs at the end of the turn. So are we just holding up Whir of Invention for the Skull Clamp and try and get back into this? I think that's probably the best we can do here. So if we hold up Whir of Invention, tap down the sword in order to pay the 1, then we could maybe play Thopter Foundry just to get more Thopters in the way. Yeah, let's do that. So it's Sol Ring. It's tempting to go after some kind of life gain, but we can maybe do that through the Thopter Foundry. Yeah, we need blue for the Thopter Foundry, don't we? Unfortunately, so means we just lost life for nothing, I think. Well, that's alright. We can swing in here and make some mana regardless. Go with the Construct token, see if they want to gang up on that. We're just doing it for the Sword of the Animist trigger, of course, which has totally changed the game for us. Get another island in. We've got 4 lands left. Not that it matters, because we're not drawing into lands anyway. Trying to just throw a zombie in the way of that, but he'll need 2 zombies for the Menace, thanks to Urza. Couple more 8/8s. So Urza really doing some work here, along with the Anointed Procession. Oversold Cemetery triggering again, and as you would expect, more likely that you'll get an Apostle than anything else. If they're going to start shooting Thopters, then we're going to have to get something big and flashy into play maybe in response to that. Could have got down the Bronze Guardian maybe to give ward, but don't think that really does much of anything. Yeah, we've got mana for a Phyrexian Metamorph off the War of Invention. That would be 4, 5, 6, 7 mana. So yeah, we've definitely got that. We could make a copy of the Demon. Yeah, we'll just let our opponent blow up the tokens here, I think, and see how they want to attack in. No, just going in with the Demon. So in that case, we'll War of Invention, and I'll just look through my library here. Ah, oh, damn it, and we don't have blue on the Felwar Stone anymore. Ugh. Yep. Player scooping will do that to you. Alright, so we're still struggling on colours apparently. Should have just got down the Thopter Foundry. Yeah, totally forgot that the Felwar Stone doesn't tap for blue. So we just have to take 6. And that means our opponent gets us with Hecatomb, so yeah, this thing becoming relevant in the end. But yeah, I was fully hoping to be able to get down some means of blocking there. That was an error on my part. But this game turned out to be a bit of a shit show anyway, so hopefully you all enjoyed it despite my blunder. I was looking to search up with the War of Invention the Meteor Golem and shoot the flyer out of the way because that was the main threat, although I think my opponent maybe could have got us if he'd just gone wide there anyway, so I'm not entirely sure what we could have done there. We were just struggling on mana way too much, didn't get into all that many artifacts that we could actually cast for the Sai. My decks have quite a low curve, but couldn't get into lands, let alone that many low curve spells. And yeah, Sai being able to make a bunch of chump blockers for us would have been really good, but just weren't quite fast enough this game, unfortunately. So it's a good game to my opponent. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. I'm Tribalkai. Thank you for watching.